Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is Tuesday, April 8th, and I wanted to go ahead and do a garden tour today because things have just grown. Look at that. It's already April. We're right in the middle of spring. The weather is so warm and beautiful, and I'm so excited about all the growth that's in the garden, and I wanted to go ahead and do an April garden tour. So let's go ahead and get started with this year's April garden tour. So starting off with this first bed right here, I am so excited because I am going to be harvesting my first harvest of the year from this bed. So as you can see, the cilantro, oh my goodness, it is so big and lush and beautiful. And my collard greens, these are huge. I am planning to cook greens this week, and I also have tons of chard to harvest this week. Lots of cilantro, which I need to figure out what I'm going to cook with that. And also in this bed as well, I've got some more chard. As you can see, it's growing beautiful. It's so lush and healthy. We just had a big rain last night, so everything is just so green right now. And we also got some kale to harvest this week, which I'm very excited about. My parsley is growing, and as you can see in here, I've got rows of carrots in between this garden bed. Carrots I actually planted before I put in these plants, and I got frustrated because my seeds were not starting, and I just was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go buy some starts and put them in here. And then a few weeks later, I see that I have so many carrot starts, so I went ahead and thinned them out like last week, and now I think they'll have enough space to grow. Hopefully we'll get a few carrots to eat, but as you can see how things are growing. The thing I'm most excited about is these potato beds. Oh my goodness, look at the growth on these potatoes. And what's more exciting is that this bed actually already is flowering, as you can see right here. So I think in about a month we'll be harvesting our first potatoes. And I'm so excited about that. Like, wow. Things have just exploded with growth. And then over in this bed, I've got my beets. They're growing nice and healthy. These are all started from seeds in this garden bed. And then I went ahead and thinned them out. And now, as you can see, they're growing really well. This is a little kale plant, collard green plant. It might be kale, it might be collard greens, I'm not quite sure. I transferred that a couple days ago, which is looking a little bit limpy, but hopefully it'll catch. I had an extra plant and I just decided to put it there because I don't know what happened to the beet plant that was there. Maybe it died. But as you can see right here, my peas are growing really well. My husband plans to come and put a trellis right here over into this side, and this is going to be great because this is also where I plan to put my melons on both sides. So also the melons, after these peas are done for the year, I'm going to put in my melons and they're going to be able to grow on that same trellis. Over in this bed, I have what is called perpetual spinach, which is a type of chard, and it's called perpetual spinach because I guess this type of chard doesn't go to seed as easily, and it's something that you can harvest, and also the texture is very similar to spinach. And on the ends of this bed, I've got my cilantro. This is cilantro that I planted from seed, and on this side as well you can see more cilantro. This cilantro I bought as starts. The garden store was having a big sale of starts, so I just bought a bunch of starts. Over on this side, these are onions, which I am experimenting with growing in containers. I've never grown onions in containers before, but as you can see, they're growing really well. They're developing, they're beautiful, they're green. We've been getting so much beautiful rain, and I'm very happy with how these onions are doing. This is a wildflower mix, which I planted about a month ago. And these are zinnias, which are just popping up right now. We are apparently supposed to be having a freeze tonight. It's gonna get down to about 34 degrees. That's the first time that has happened in quite a few weeks. And I'm trying to decide whether I should bring in these flowers or if I should just risk it. I just don't know if I'll have time to bring them in, because as I'm shooting this, I'm running late because I have to take my kids to swim and all of that. So I'll see. I mean, if they die, I can always plant more seeds, but they've grown so well. I don't want to lose the growth. But yeah, we're just having a random cold weather event tonight. Moving on, this is some more wildflowers. This is just a wildflower mix that I bought. And I planted this one, that one, and then there's one on the other side over there that's wildflowers. And I strategically placed them kind of on towards the fence to kind of bring pollinators in, to kind of tell them like, hey, there's good things in this garden, you know, to kind of encourage them to come in and work on the rest of the plants in the garden and all of that. And look at these. These potatoes are really going to flower, and we've got our first flower. That's like, wow. The growth on these beds has been amazing. All of these potatoes which I planted are grocery store potatoes. I have not bought any seed potatoes all the years that I've been gardening. I personally feel like seed potatoes are a bit of a scam just because they're so expensive, and you can buy just plain organic potatoes. These are all organic potatoes which I bought at the grocery store. I kept them in my basement starting from around January, and I just left them there. And guess what? They just started getting the little sprouts on them, and I just planted them. And I've done that for years. I've never ever bought seed potatoes, and I've always had a great harvest with potatoes. So all of these are seed potatoes, and it's very important to buy organic potatoes because a lot of the conventional growers actually spray growth inhibitors on their potatoes to keep them from sprouting so that they can have a longer shelf life. So I always buy the non-sprayed ones because they will actually sprout faster and quicker. I did have some potatoes that were not organic, and I just put them in my basement to see what would happen compared to their organic counterparts. And sure enough, like my organic potatoes, like 99% of them sprouted, but the ones that were not organic, only 10 to 20% of them actually got sprouts on them. So that just goes to show you the difference between organic and non-organic potatoes and what they spray on them. But let's go ahead and do a tour of the rest of the garden. Right here, some more zinnias. Again, I may or may not bring them in tonight. depends with how busy the evening ends up being. Over here, these are either broccoli or cauliflower. It's kind of hard to tell at this stage, but this bed and that bed over there are either broccoli or cauliflower. These I started from seeds in my house back in January, and I transferred them into the garden, I believe on March 1st. And then these are onions, the same variety of onions as is in those containers over there. And I bought them as, what are they called? The little onion, not onion starts, but what's the word that they use? Onion sets. I bought them as onion sets, and I planted them at the same time as I planted these. And I planted them together because they're great companion plants, and they also will help prevent disease in this garden bed. All of this is all broccoli or cauliflower and onions. Over in this bed is cabbages. Now these cabbages here, some of these are my own that I started from seeds. I think the smaller ones are the ones that I started myself. The bigger ones are some that I bought as starts. And then these onions I grew from onion sets as well. I had a bit of an aphid problem. Looks like it's been resolved. So 2 days ago, I had tons of aphids. I'm trying to see if I can, oh, you see, there's still a few in there. I had tons of aphids on this cabbage and this cabbage, and I came in here first. I wiped them off with some soapy water and actually sprayed the soapy water on there, and then I went ahead and I sprayed beneficial nematodes in the entire garden. I sprayed beneficial nematodes, and why I sprayed beneficial nematodes in my garden is because last year I had a patio garden. I had not, built this big garden, and I planted potatoes and they were all eaten by these little fat white worms. Like when I harvested, like first of all, my greens were not looking very healthy, but eventually they did die back. And then when I tried to, pull them up, and I didn't get a single potato, and the potatoes that were in there were rotten and gross. And there are these little white grubs, which I think is a type of moth, worm or something, and they tend to attack potatoes, but they can attack other things. And white beneficial nematodes is a type of kind of like, I don't know if it's like a bacteria or something, a beneficial type of bacteria that kind of goes in and attacks all sorts of various different kind of common garden pests, and attacks them at various stages in their life, so that to make sure that they don't grow and develop into potato eating worms. And I sprayed them on my cabbages to see if it would have any effect also on these aphids, and I feel like maybe it did, but only time will tell. I see less aphids today than I did 2 days ago. I sprayed 2 days ago, which was on Sunday. And the reason why I sprayed them on Sunday is because it was supposed to rain Sunday night. It rained all day yesterday, Monday, and it rained all night last night. And so you want the nematodes to get lots of moisture. Don't want them to be exposed to the sun because it can kill them. And I think that really helps them get into the soil, get into the roots of my plants and all of that. So that's a pest that we've already had to deal with, is those aphids. Anywho, moving on. Over here, these are either cauliflower or broccoli. Like I should have labeled these, but I didn't. But again, onions in between all the rows, planted from sets, and they're growing really well. And I hope that within the next month or so, maybe month and a half, we'll be able to harvest something from these broccoli and cauliflowers. And they've actually handled the warm weather really well. Last week it was in the 80s every single day. In fact, it was almost 90 degrees on one day. And then this week the temperature has dropped significantly. The high for today was like 55. I think the high for tomorrow is like 58. So I'm very happy that at least all of my brassicas, my cabbages, cauliflower, and broccoli will get a break from the heat and hopefully not bolt. I was really worried that they would have heat stress. But yeah, the temperatures this week have dropped significantly, and hopefully that will keep them from going to seed, and hopefully we'll be able to get a good harvest out of them. Now let's go on over to the fence. Look at that bush and how colorful it is right now. I just love spring because of all the flowers everywhere. It's just gorgeous. Anyhow, these are some leftover potatoes that I had, which I decided to put in containers because it wasn't enough for a full bed, but I didn't want them to go to waste either. So I went ahead and planted them in these containers. And as you can see, they're growing really well. They look healthy. These have not flowered yet, and neither have the ones on this bed have flowered yet. But I imagine in the next week or two, we'll be seeing some flowers. And then over here, I've got some peas, which I don't know why all of the peas in here didn't start, because I planted, like, you see there's all these gaps in between. But anywho, I planted them on this fence here with hopes that they will kind of cling onto the fence and grow upwards that way. But they're doing well, and hopefully we'll get a nice little pea harvest this year. I just love the texture of the pea plant leaves. Like, it's so soft, and I really love the flowers from the pea plant. They're so soft and beautiful. But anywho, that's the April garden tour. Everything is so green and lush and beautiful. and I'm just so grateful and I'm so excited. I was looking at my garden from the kitchen window this morning and I was like, oh, things have just grown, and my plants have just been loving all the rain. Sorry, I almost ran into a spider web. Things are just so green and beautiful, and it's not hot yet, so we're not having tons of bug pressure. And I really hope that the beneficial nematodes get into the soil and kill anything. But I'm not too worried about white grubs this year, because as you can see, these leaves are so healthy. Last year when I had those white grubs on my potatoes, the leaves were not healthy. But it's always good to have a preventative measure, and hopefully that will keep things looking nice and green and beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this April garden tour, and for just listening to some random girl on the internet ramble on about her garden. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys subscribe to this channel. I hope I get to see you again. I hope you please comment about your garden. What are you growing? What's going on? Are you planning to garden this year? It's not too late. It's only mid-April, and I was at the garden store, and the amount of starts that they have, it was so tempting. It was so tempting. I have a buying starts problem, and I'm willing to admit that, but all that is to say, it's not too late to have a garden this year, and I hope that my garden tour inspired you guys. Please comment, what are your thoughts? What are you planting? What's going on? How's the weather where you are? Please subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.